Many couples believe retiring earlier and living a truly fulfilling life together is mostly about how much money they have saved. While money is absolutely part of the conversation, it is only one part of a much bigger picture. In our experience, the couples who move into earlier, more aligned, and more enjoyable retirements are not simply the ones who save more. They are the ones who became clearer together, clearer in their vision, clearer in their decisions, clearer in how everything they were building actually worked. I know this because David and I have been together for over 20 years, believe it or not. We have raised children, built a business together, and made financial decisions through real pressure, real uncertainty, and real love. I still remember a night sitting at our kitchen table, looking over everything that we've built. When I asked him a question I now hear from so many couples: are we actually going to be able to retire earlier and enjoy it together? Or are we just hoping everything comes together over time? If you are watching this as a couple, that is even better too. In this conversation, we are going to explore a few things that most couples never fully slow down to understand. How to know if you're truly aligned as a couple when it comes to your future. The key alignment audit questions that can change the direction in your planning. Where couples quietly drift apart without realizing it. Important financial and tax considerations that often go overlooked. What can happen when one spouse passes and why that matters more than most expected. And how clarity, presence, and even something as simple as your breath can influence the quality of the decisions you make together. The goal is not more complexity, it is clarity. So, what you're building is not only financially sound, but something both of you truly understand, feel confident in, and can truly enjoy together. Because this conversation is not just about retirement, it is about your life and how you choose to live it together. Welcome. If you are new here, I am Ashley Lundberg. I am a financial educator, wellness coach, and co-owner of Awaken Financial Designs. I have my master's degree in business leadership. Dave and I both are uniquely certified in pranayama, breathwork, meditation, and yoga instructors too. As we believe in true integration of wellness with wealth, we also help people retire earlier, wealthier, and happier.
Yep. And my name is David Lundberg. I'm a fiduciary financial planner and tax strategist on a flat fee model, co-owner of Awaken Financial Designs. I do have 2 master's degrees, certificate in financial planning, marine ventured, and we've been helping guide people over 10 years now to retire earlier, wealthier, and happier. We are headquartered out here in North Carolina and in Arizona, and we help people virtually nationwide where we are licensed and eligible to do so. But as always throughout this video, it is educational only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. Now again, as Ashley said earlier, right, we are a real couple. We've been together for 20 years. We have kids, we have dogs. We've been through so many life struggles that so many have out there. We've built our own business from scratch here, which we're sharing with you today. So we're gonna have real conversations with you that we've used in our own life, that we've used with hundreds of other couples, and that we've heard from and seen from thousands as well, to ideally help you with the greater retirement, to help you possibly retire earlier, wealthier, but most importantly, happier, and happier together here as well. So Ashley, what's kind of like the first thing we're talking about here today?
Yeah, so I want to say something that most financial conversations never really actually say out loud, especially with a financial planner. Many couples come into planning believing that if they can just get the strategy right, the right accounts, the right investments, the right tax decisions, everything else will fall into place for a successful retirement. And on the surface, that makes complete sense. But what we have seen over and over and over again in real conversations with real couples is something very different. Early retirement, especially, and more importantly, retirement overall that actually feels good to live with the one that you love, is not built from strategy, but from strategy of numbers alone. It's built from alignment first together. Because you can do many of the right things financially, even well and earn well, save consistently, build a strong portfolio over time, and still feel uncertain about whether you can actually step into that next chapter of life together. Not because something is wrong on paper, but because something was never fully clear between the two of you. And this shows up in ways most couples do not immediately recognize. Different timelines, different definitions of enough, different visions of what life actually looks like when work is no longer at the center. And if those things are not talked through honestly, openly, and together, no financial strategy can fully close that gap. And I also want to say this directly. Whether you're a working mom like myself, balancing all the things in life, a career, a family, and everything in between, or you're a stay-at-home mom and you're supporting your family in a different but equally meaningful way. This still matters deeply for you to understand as well, because this is not just about numbers. It's about your life, your future, and your voice inside that plan that is being built. You are part of the relationship, and you are both part of the life that you've created. At some point in time, one person will become ill, will get injured, and ultimately pass away. The person left alive needs to understand the financial investing and tax information as well.
Yeah, and from the financial and tax planning side, which is what I specialize in focusing more so
Yeah.
than Ashley does here too, is that I see this consistently for over 10 years. In many cases on here, the financial structure and the numbers themselves, they look adequate overall, but both partners are not equally clear on what that is, on how it works, on what it means, on how it's designed for them and their own impacts in their own life.
Right.
And that causes decisions to drift, the fear, the stress, and the unspoken conversations begin to build up. Now, it's not because anyone made a bad choice.
Right.
It's not because anyone did anything wrong whatsoever. I mean, life happens. You get busy. We know our firsthand ourselves on there. But it's because the decision was never fully shared openly and honestly with each other in a conversation. Because let's get real, talking about money, it can be scary. Talking about
Yes.
money, it can be stressful,
Uncomfortable.
which is why so many couples often avoid it. But avoidance leads to that confusion on there, and we want awareness, right? We always tell people, hey, you have X dollars every year to spend, maybe 150 grand a year to spend. You could spend at least X dollars every single month. Your money's going to last this long. What do you both want to do with it? What kind of travels? What kind of vacations? What kind of experiences do you want to do? Do you want to give this money to any person or anybody? Do you want to share this money with anyone that's out there? What does this money actually look like for you both? Now, how do you both want to use it and both want to spend it out there? Otherwise, they'll keep saving more and more. They won't spend as much that is out there.
Yeah.
They'll let time go by. By letting time go by, that causes so many other issues we're eventually going to discuss. But that's why communication is so crucial and so critical for us to have.
And exactly. And that's the quiet drift in clarity, in communication, in understanding is how couples can arrive at 55, 60, 70, or even beyond with strong finances, but still feeling unsure. Not behind financially, but behind in that clarity and financial awareness. And clarity is what we are here to build.
Because actually, we want to help people, of course, ultimately retire happier as well,
Yes.
not just have the money out there to enjoy that retirement together, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the purpose of life, is to spend time with the ones that you love and having that stress. So where does this misalignment actually come from? Because it rarely shows up all at once.
Yeah.
It builds quietly over the years, in small decisions, in postponed conversations, in assumptions that were never fully checked. And over time, those small amounts begin to shape those much bigger outcomes. And here is what that often looks like in real life. One partner starts to feel ready for something different, maybe stepping away earlier, maybe shifting how they spend their time. The other is not quite there yet. And one understands the finances more and the other one does not. The thought of retiring might be different. Not because they disagree, but because they've never really explored that vision together.
And this is very common that we've seen for years. I'm sure you yourself have seen
Yeah.
it. You probably know someone that has seen it. This is a
like-
common issue, but the good news is it can be easy to fix and it can be easy to resolve as well.
Yeah, or one person feels relatively calm during market changes, while the other one feels a real physical sense of stress when things move. And then there's something that we see almost in every relationship in one form or another. One person naturally takes the lead on the finances. So they're the ones tracking the accounts. They understand how everything's structured. They carry that mental load of making sure everything's okay. And then the other partner steps back and steps to be removed, not because they don't care, but because that's simply the pattern that they've developed over time. And I know this for myself and for us, it was like that for a long time. And then we decided to have those open conversations, awkward conversations, but that needed to be done to equally look at everything together.
Yeah, I mean, as Ashley was saying, predominantly it's always been typically the man or the husband in the relationship has always held the finances on there. However, these last 10, 15 years, that's starting to change. There's being more equal now, the man and the woman. Or in a lot of cases, the woman might be in charge of the finances that we've seen here as well. But we know for us, once I visually sat down and I showed Ashley all the plans, the bank statements, the investment accounts, and everything too, I mean, it took a lot of conversations, but it brought such a new clarity and calmness almost to us both that was amazing. That's what we do with so many couples that we do help, is that someone might say, well, hey, for the last 10, 15, 30 years, so-and-so has never been really involved. They just kind of know we have money. And we always bring them in to say, it's important for you both to understand what's happening.
Absolutely.
It's important for you both to visually see what is happening as well, because you want that clarity and awareness, because the other spouse, whether they tell you or not, they do have questions in their mind. The other spouse, whether you tell them or not, they do have unsureties in their mind. And eventually, as Ashley said earlier, someone's going to pass away. Someone's going to get sick. Someone's going to get injured. So the one you love, you want them to have an understanding.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And, over time, that imbalance grows, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet way. One person does carry something that was always meant to be shared because it's together. And I want to speak directly to the women watching this for a minute, because this is something that I have seen and something that I've truly felt myself. Women often carry an invisible layer in all of this, not just the finances, but the bigger picture, the healthcare decisions, the long-term what if conversations, the emotional responsibility of making sure everyone's okay now and in the future. That weight is real, and it shapes which conversations happen and which ones truly get avoided. And statistically, women often live longer, which means that this plan is not something that you are part of. It's something that you will likely rely on independently at some point. So your clarity in this, your confidence in this, your voice in this, it's not optional, it's essential. And then there's the real conversations that simply never happen because, again, we're too afraid, not because they're not important, but because we're uncomfortable. Because money carries that history, how we were raised, what we were taught or not taught, what we're afraid to say out loud. So the conversation gets postponed because life happens, then postponed again because life happens, and then unspoken stress does not disappear. It just becomes quieter. It starts to sit underneath everything else, and it's something that cannot be fully faced yet. And it can be.
Yeah, and that's a great point Ashley has on there, which is why we're so passionate about also women's education,
Yes.
in addition to men, of course, too. But it's the couple's alignment on there. We want both individuals, women and men, to understand the money as well. And also, we've seen these last several years from people we know, unfortunately, divorce does happen.
Yeah.
And how often have Ashley, you and I both seen where the woman gets the divorce and they go, hey, I don't know about the finances. I don't know about the money. My husband was always handling it.
It's eye-opening.
Right. So we also want women to understand the money, the investing, the taxes,
Absolutely.
the accounts, and the retirement, in addition to men equally, but women also need that education too.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important. So when that alignment, right, gets delayed, it's not just the retirement alone that gets delayed. It's like a domino shift, right? Time is lost, not in a dramatic way, but in a small, consistent way that compounds over the years. And like David said, we've seen couples with strong financial positions delay retirement by years, not because the numbers were not there, but because they were not tied, like unified in how they thought. They weren't together in their cohesiveness. And that I've seen couples with similar numbers move forward earlier, not because they found a better investment, but because they got clear, they got grounded, they got aligned, they did things together. And that difference is real. And it is not reserved for a certain type of person or a certain level of wealth. It is available to any couple willing to have that conversation that most couples keep postponing. Over the years, from people that we've spoken with, that we've helped, that we know, their friends and families, and many other stories, someone gets a serious illness like cancer in their 60s, passes away in their early 70s, and much more. The time that they had to retire, to go on trips and make more memories and experiences is gone. And we have seen this so much, and man, it just like makes you realize to do it now, to think now, because time is inevitable. You just never know.
Yeah, I mean, great point. We talked to someone last week on here, right? They're in
Yeah.
their early 70s. The spouse is, still healthy overall. Unfortunately, they have some very serious health issues and risk, but they have lots of money saved up,
Yeah.
right? But now it's like, hey, these big cruises they want to do together.
Yeah.
These big flights to other countries they want to do together. Now they can't, sadly. And they had saved all that money and the fear of running out of it and the
Yeah.
fear of not knowing on there. And they can't have that, which is why we love helping and we encourage couples when they retire financial planning to spend more money their
now.
first 10 years at
Yeah.
least, right?
Yeah.
And so oftentimes in our financial planning, we'll say, hey, in your 60s, we're going to spend at least X amount of dollars more. In your 70s, we'll decrease it a little bit.
And that makes
If you're
sense.
still alive in your 80s, we'll decrease a little more.
Yeah.
And if you happen to still be alive in your 90s, we'll decrease it more. But that way you were spending more money those first 10 years
Yep.
when you're both healthy, active, alive, having together. Decrease it in the 70s, decrease it in the 80s. So then when that one spouse does pass away and you're that surviving spouse,
Yeah.
you have all those beautiful memories
Memories.
of cherishment. You don't want to be left 78 years old. You saved all that money, spouse passes away, and you
Right.
regret. You regret, man, I wish I would have spent that 10K on that cruise. I wish I would have spent that 5,000 here and the
Yeah.
8,000 here on there. So we really want people and couples to cherish the time they have with a healthy and active in their retirement by spending more of that money in those healthier years, not fearing living too long, because we could always decrease our spending in the future. But I can't 10 years from now
can't take it back
get you back that
time.
vacation that
Yeah.
you never had when someone's sick, injured, or passed away, which really leads us to our next point now.
Yeah, I want to give you something practical right now, something that you can actually use this week. We call this the alignment audit. 5 questions, not trick questions, not therapy prompts, just 5 things that most couples have never formally asked each other. And that change in the quality of every financial conversation that follows. So if you are watching this with your partner, I would encourage you to pause here and sit with each one of these questions. If you're watching alone, send this to them. Watch it together. There are no right or wrong answers here, only the honest ones. So question 1, do we both have a clear and a similar vision of when we want to retire? Not just a number, an actual vision. Because 2 people can say the same retirement age and mean completely different things by it. One imagines freedom, the other imagines that anxiety. The gap matters more than the number. Question 2, have we defined what enough actually looks like for a life, not just our accounts? Enough is not a spreadsheet figure. It's a shared feeling of sufficiency that both people genuinely carry. If one person feels it and the other one does not, you are not there yet. And no number will get you there without this conversation. Question 3.
Go ahead, sorry.
Do we both understand how our money is structured and how it will support us when we stop working?
I mean, this one matters structurally, is actually saying on there, right? And I mean, in general, couples have multiple account types: IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, TSP, brokerage, real estate, so on and so forth. It keeps going on there. But understanding how each one is taxed, understanding how that money can be withdrawn or pulled out, understanding that net income level on there for that greater flexibility, the freedoms, the liquidities, and the protections. But it's for both partners to understand what they have, why they have it, how it works, how it impacts them now, and how it impacts them when one of them passes away in the future too.
Yeah, and if one partner can explain the plan, that is not a shared plan. Both of you have to do it together. That's just one person's plan, while the other one's hoping that it works out. So we come back to that phrase a lot. Question 4, are there concerns, fears about money that we've not fully expressed to each other? And this is the one most couples skip, right? Because it requires that vulnerability. But unspoken financial fear is the single most common reason retirement planning stalls, even when the numbers say that it should. Say the thing. It is almost never as heavy once it's in the room. So addressing the elephant in the room, once you do, great.
Yeah, really quick, that could be something that Ashley and I talked about is maybe one spouse is like, hey, I want to have at least 1,000 hours every month so I can go do golf, so I can go have spa days with the girlfriends.
Yes,
I want to have another 1,000 hours here and $1,000 there, or I want to shop every month for $300, right? Whatever it might be. Now, these are common things that couples go, we do these, but until you actually talk about it, and I look someone in the face and go, hey, Ashley, I want to have $1,000 a month just for me to go out and enjoy myself, for me to hang out with the boys. I want to have a good time for myself. Well, that might cause her to think a certain way, or she might tell me,
well, shoot, if you have 1,000, then I want the same, but I want to go shopping. I want to do fun things with my friends.
Right. Now, these are conversations so many people avoid on there, but they're important. And you have retirement money.
And
you want to spend the money and get it out there in the open. That way you're not always like, man, I hope she never finds out about this.
That anxiety.
I hope he never finds out this. So that is all about that question 4 on there. But that leads us to question 5, Ashley.
Yes. And 5, the last question. Yeah. If we retired earlier, what would our daily life actually look like?
Yeah.
So not the vacation. It's the Tuesday, the ordinary Thursday, the Thursday morning when neither of you has to be anywhere. And if you cannot both describe that and feel genuinely good about what you described, the plan does not yet have a real destination.
Yeah, because question 5 here is actually was said on there, what does retirement look like, early retirement look like on there? You might have 20, 30, 40 years with each other still to go, and you are always having that 50-hour-a-week job, fill up your gap. Maybe you drove to work for an hour, had the lunch break, drove home for an hour, 50 hours in there. You never really saw each other. You were doing that for 20, 30 years. And one day all of a sudden,
autopilot.
Oof, wow, I don't have 50 hours anymore where I have to go somewhere else. Now I got to see you for an extra 50 hours, right? And that might sound silly, but to a lot of people, that is a massive life change. And that can take a year. It could take 2 years on there. But that's when you have to find hobbies, find activities. Maybe some you share, some are by yourself. Maybe start finding other friends or making other friends out there, because you want to ask yourselves, what are we going to do with this time on here? Because as much as I love you, I don't want to be spending every second of every week with you. I might want to have time where it's like, hey, I want to go hang out with some of my friends. I want to have some of my own activities. And I encourage you to have some activities too on there as well. Because even though you're my best friend and I love you, I want you to still have a life, for yourself too.
I'm not to you.
So I mean, really, those are the big 5 questions to really go over. They're not all going to be easy, but you need to have those. And it's going to give such a relief off of your own mindset after you do as well.
Yeah. And I just want to shift for a moment into something that Dave and I talk about with almost every couple that we work with. Because alignment is not only about vision and values, it's also about understanding, right, the wealth and the structure you are building inside of, and what that structure actually does over time. Most couples that we meet worked hard, like David was saying, consistently save. But the way their money's organized, which accounts, which tax retirements, which sequence of withdrawals quietly determines, right, how much freedom that they actually have when the moment happens. And for many couples, that is structure has a few gaps worth being aware of, like tax diversification and account types. So here is something that surprises people. It's not just about how much you save, it's about where it is saved and what the tax consequences are when you start drawing from it.
Yeah, that's one of the things we love doing in our financial wealth alignment softwares that we use and all the visual plans we show people is showing them net of taxes, not gross, because no one really cares if you're going to have 160 grand a year gross. They care about the net result, which might be only $100,000 a year, because maybe that money's in that 401k or it's in the IRA. Maybe you have some of that money in that taxable account. Right? You might have some Roth IRA money that has qualified tax-free withdrawals on there, but we want to visually show them the net. That way they can both visually see it, both visually understand it, and they can both have a visual clarity and awareness of that too.
Yeah, and if one partner understands that mix and the other one does not, decisions get made, right, with half the picture, which is one more reason why the shared understanding is not a bonus, it is part of the plan. So one of the areas that we see couples most commonly overlooked is what happens to their tax picture later, particularly as it relates to accounts that can be taken out tax-free, like a Roth IRA or using long-term capital gains taxes in the 0% range, depending on income limits and criteria.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a great point there on the Roth IRA, even that non-qualified taxable account. People overlook that long-term capital gains bracket where a married couple could even get that 0% potentially. Now, again, if you're single, there's a bracket for that too, but it's kind of like couples here today. But that's why we want to look at all these things to find out how can we go ahead, have lower taxes, have greater income, how much money can we spend together, how does that money look throughout our life, how long will it last on there, and we go over all of these items and so much more.
Yeah, and the point is not to stress about this. The point is to know that it exists, because knowing that it exists changes that conversation that you have with your advisor and the questions that you ask.
Ashley's a great point here too. We always tell everyone that meets with us as well, there are no dumb questions.
No.
Don't feel bad about asking us, right?
Say that
We
too.
have people that have $5 million ask us questions, people that have only $300,000 ask us questions. We have people that might have PhDs galore. We might have people that are just our regular jobs that are out there too. But people generally have the same kind of questions and thoughts because they've been working their job their whole life. They've been saving and accumulating money. So ask that advisor the questions. Ask your planner that questions because they want to make sure that you understand, because we are here for you as our fiduciaries.
Yes, and that's a fantastic point. So there are also planning opportunities, right, that couples specifically have that individuals do not have in the same way. So David kind of touched on this, but married filing jointly carries advantages that are worth understanding before you need them to include the standard deduction and how that helps still in retirement.
Yeah, great thing people don't understand about the standard deduction. People know, hey, when I'm working and I have my job on there, I get the standard deduction. I can help offset some taxes every year. People so often in retirement forget that when you both quit working, now again, this standard deduction is for individuals as well as married filing jointly too. So we both do have one, but the level you get or amount you get is different, of course, on there. Well, we'll say in general, right, in 2026, in general, again, ballpark number, we'll call it $30,000 for the standard deduction that's thrown out there. So in retirement now, if I have, say, 401k money or IRA money that's coming in and we're no longer working, I still get that $30,000 standard deduction. So if I take out $100,000 as an example from a 401k, it's offset by the standard deduction of $30,000, brings my taxable income now to only $70,000. So we can utilize that standard deduction when we're both still married as well, but eventually we're to get into what's called the widow tax, or what happens when a spouse passes away, where that standard deduction changes, which is why when you're married, you want to utilize it to your advantage, including maybe even doing Roth IRA conversions potentially to use that standard deduction when you are married and you're in a better tax situation as well, as opposed to when someone does pass away.
Right. And not to act on, but to know about, so that when the conversation does happen with a qualified professional, you arrive as an informed participant, not someone hearing it for the first time. So as David briefly touched on just a little bit ago, but let's discuss the sad and life-altering event that occurs when the day with the death of a spouse does arrive. And I want to touch on something that most no financial content addresses directly, because it is uncomfortable and because it deeply matters, especially for couples planning together. What many couples do not realize is that the financial picture often changes in many ways many couples are not aware of when one spouse passes away. Not because of bad planning, but because The tax and income structure that worked beautifully in this plan for two people looks very different for one.
Yeah, I mean, remember when you're married, you get the married filing jointly tax status. Now, the tax brackets, they're the same for single or for a married
Yeah.
person, but the income
Income.
amounts are very
Yep.
different on there. And so when we are married, as an example on there, maybe the $150,000 a year in income we have, minus the married standard deduction, minus the higher income levels we get in our bracket, is going to be a much lower tax impact compared to when that spouse passes away now. Now, either in the single or individual tax status, and they have half the standard deduction roughly as well. And on top of that, the Social Security benefits check, you go from having two checks
Right.
to only having one check on there. That's a very different income picture. And we want to create awareness to that, which is why so often in our financial plans, we'll have people all the time says, hey, show me what happens if my spouse dies at 80, dies at 85, dies at 90.
Yeah.
So you can see those
Like broke
impacts
up.
in the plan. You can see the impacts as well in Social Security benefits. Because keep in mind, when a spouse passes away, you don't get two checks. You keep the higher of the
Yeah.
two. So if her check was higher than my check and she passes away, I would get her amount, but I don't keep mine.
Right.
If I pass away and mine was lower, then she would keep hers. She doesn't get mine. So you
Right.
don't get the both checks out for Social Security. And as not to mention, what we've talked about in other videos, the inherited IRA, the inherited Roth IRA, or the inherited brokerage account, those three have very different tax impacts on that surviving spouse. You have to be more proactive and aware when they're alive.
Yeah, and we're not raising this
No.
to create the fear. We're raising this because it does bring couples who plan for this a reality, who have talked about it, understood it, and accounted for it, arriving at that moment with far more clarity and far less financial stress. Planning for the full picture, including those uncomfortable and hard parts, is one of the most loving things two people can do together. And relatedly, right? Social Security benefits is not a set it and forget it decision for couples. It's the timing, the sequencing, and the survivor implications that are all worth understanding together, not just by the partner who tends to manage the finances, which is why we educate on Social Security benefits, the tactics and the strategies, and the couples who need to think about it differently.
Yeah, especially when it comes to retiring earlier and Social Security benefits on there, with couples in particular on there, you're going to have two different checks on there.
Yeah.
And so the beauty is maybe age 62, that earlier age, someone can get that on there. You find out who's older in that relationship too on there as
Yep.
well. You can always go to the ssa.gov, Social Security benefits. It's free to get a login. It's free to get a report. We encourage anybody who's within 5 years of retiring,
Yeah.
go to the website, the federal government, find out what your benefit amounts might be. But then we say, well, if you can retire earlier at 62, yes, you have to pay for healthcare because Medicare doesn't start until age 65.
Right.
But what if now you can take, let's say my check. I turn 62. We're going to turn on my benefit amount, not turn on Ashley's amount on here. We're going to start using some of the money I get from Social Security benefits to help pay for out-of-pocket healthcare costs, maybe on the Affordable Care Act or healthcare.gov. And then at age 65, we'll go to Medicare. And then we go, you know what? Maybe at age 66, we turn on Ashley's Social Security benefits at a later point in life. So we layer it and stagger it.
Yes.
But that way we can retire earlier possibly, use that money to help offset some healthcare before Medicare kicks in. Medicare starts in, later on in life, we turn on her benefit amount too. So when it comes to Social Security benefits, especially with couples and those trying to retire earlier, there are certain strategies to be aware of as well. We don't just guess, we show it in the math, the data, and the visuals.
Yeah, and again, this is awareness, not alarm. This is where that thoughtful planning creates that difference between reacting to a situation and having it already prepared. So I want to bring in something that most financial content never touches, and it is one of the things that makes what we do generally different, our own firm and who we are. Financial decisions are not made in a vacuum. They're made through the lens of your nervous system, right? Your stress levels, your sense of safety, your ability to think clearly in the actual moment that you're being asked to decide something important. When your system is activated, when stress is high, that decision making becomes reactive. You tense up, you avoid those conversations, you defer choices. You say yes to things that feel urgent instead of things that are actually aligned with what you want. When your system is calm and when you are generally present, your thinking becomes more intentional, more honest, more aligned with who you actually are and what you actually want in your life. This is not abstract. This is neuroscience. And it is exactly why every class that we teach, every workshop, and every event we host integrates breathwork with financial decision. Which is why, in addition to our master's degrees and financial expertise, we value wellness. We are certified yoga instructors, pranayama breathwork, and meditation. We've spent years guiding people not just in wellness, but in the intersection of inner clarity and real world decision making.
I mean, you would never think that a Marine veteran myself on here and owning a financial firm of all places on there would then also become, as Ashley was saying on there, that yoga, that pranayama breath work, and that meditation. But as she has said on there, the medical and scientific data and the spiritual data out there, it proves how it can really help, because we truly believe that true wealth is also your health. That true wealth is also your wellness. That true wealth is that wellness for each of you as a couple, so you can enjoy a longer, healthier, active life as well, which is why Ashley said in our emails, in our newsletters, and our in-person events for years, we do guided breathwork. We do guided meditation visualizations as well, because if to us, we don't just talk about it, we eat, live, and breathe that.
Yeah, we do. Eat, live, and breathe for sure. That's beautifully said. So here's what I've watched happen in that work. When people arrive at that important conversation from a calmer, clarity, more grounded, right place, when they're willing to say changes, what they're willing to hear changes, they're just more open, the quality of decision itself changes. So I want to invite you and share in a simple breathwork practice with you right now. One that you can use before your next financial conversation, or honestly, before any important conversation.
And after this breath work that Ashley's going to share and guide you guys all through, we do have some more important financial data on here that couples need to be aware of, especially for our spouses and when a spouse passes away and what happens to the surviving spouse as well. But please enjoy this moment of clarity, enjoy this wellness, enjoy the connection with the breath that Ashley's going to guide us through.
Yeah, you don't need anything for this, just wherever you are, your beautiful self. And if you are with your partner, you can do this together. This is a common method that many have heard of and I wanted to share it with you. So go ahead and sit comfortably.
And this is Ashley's beautiful thing. She always shows the
box.
Yep. So this is the box breathing method, Ashley. Why is it box breathing, Ashley?
So it's called box breathing because it's 4-part breath. So you're gonna close your eyes, soften your gaze, whatever feels right. We're just gonna take moment of silence here, and what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to go ahead and breathe in through your nose for 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to hold it at the top for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Beautiful. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat the cycle. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it at the top. Exhale through your mouth. Hold it. Beautiful. Now, ideally, how the box breathing exercise works is you want to complete the cycle about 4 to 6 times to get the full effect. But the beautiful thing about box breathing is that it really does help, produce that clarity, calm the mind, slower the heart rate to allow you to make those decisions. And the pattern activates your body's natural calming response. It's simple and it's available to you anywhere and it works. I mean, when I'm sitting in traffic, it's a great thing to use. So I want to say something specific to who we are because it does matter for a certain group of people watching this. David and I are not just a couple who helps other couples navigate financial planning. We're a couple who built a business together, which was definitely not for the faint of heart, not easy for us for years. And that means that we ourselves have made financial decisions together under pressure. That is different from a dual income household where both paychecks are coming in and they arrive on schedule. We've had years of income variability. We've had conversations about shared risks that were not comfortable, but we've built something together where the line between our personal finances and our professional decisions is something very thin. So we understand that dynamic, not as a case study, but we've lived it.
Yeah, I mean, all the entrepreneurs out there, the business owners out there, the people who are in that business,
Yeah.
right? Especially for someone that is a couple that's an entrepreneur, or a couple that's a business owner on there. For over 6 years, we've been doing it ourselves, and we've helped so many other couples that are entrepreneurs, couples that are business owners as well. But even though if you're a couple too, that maybe you have a dual income job that has a lot of stress too on there, we get what that's like. So we get the stress, we get the uncertainties, we get the fears on there, which is why we incorporate that breath work and that meditation and that wellness to help out with that stress on there overall too. So we say this is that we get it. It's not easy. There's lots of challenges, lots of obstacles, but we understand that.
Yes. And if you're building something together, a business, a practice, a life that does not fit neatly into, right, that standard financial planning template, we understand that in a very, very real way. And that is one more reason why alignment is not a nice to have context. It's the foundation everything else sits on. So when two people share both their lives and their livelihood, the conversations about money, about risk and the future are not optional. They are business.
I mean, it's a great point, Ashley. Thank you so much for that.
Yes. And most important part of all is whether you are a business owner or dual income earners, is that both of you generally inside the plan. Not one person manages it and one person trusting it. Both of you truly have to understand. Both of you have to be confident in it. So I want to leave you with one question, not to answer right now, to carry with you. Let it sit for a few days and see what comes up. If fear and uncertainty were no longer driving your financial decisions and you had open conversations about retirement, what would your life look like both now and 5 years from now? Not just the account balances, the life. The Tuesday mornings, the summers, the conversations you would have time and space for that kept getting deferred because work is always there and the plan never quite felt finished. In our experience, the couples who retire earlier are not simply the ones who save more. They're the ones that aligned sooner, who stopped waiting until the uncertainty felt comfortable enough to move and started building that clarity instead. Clarity is not something that arrives on its own. It's something that you build together.
And again, these are not going to be easy conversations. They're not meant to. But I will say that if you have these conversations, you're going to feel such a weight off your own self individually and a weight together. And it's out there and it's thrown out there. So that's why I'd encourage you, right? That night you might be doing a Netflix binge night. Might be doing a movie night, whatever it is, right? Say to yourself, maybe you have kids too, right? We got kids. When the kids are in bed, maybe when the kids are in school, I don't know what it is. Intentional time. Put the phone away, unplug everything, have a real intentional time of, hey, tonight or today, we're going to set aside 2 hours, go over our finances, go over our retirement timeline, go over what does retirement mean? How do we want to live that? What are we going to do to share that vision together?
Yeah, and we just want to say thank you so much for being here with us. And drop a comment and tell us which one of those 5 alignment questions hit closest to home. We do read everyone.
Yep, and again, this is education only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. Thank you for all being with us here today, and hopefully you too can find a way to retire earlier, wealthier,